SWBC. Chris, nice to have you with us. What do you make of what's going on right now?
Thanks for having me back. I think the one constant we see right now is change, and we never know what the next shoe is going to drop and when it will happen. And so considering what Lutnick came out with this morning, the expectation we might have some relief, I think that lends a little bit of stability to the situation. But the overall operational framework is still a challenge for us to work through in terms of, will the greenback change, will the loonie change in terms of relative to each other, and then overseas when we're talking about the European zone, there's all sorts of news, coming out of there with regard to the economic implications, and that's kind of weighing in on the overall situation as well. So I'm very thoughtful about how all this is coming into play.
All right. Well, it's interesting, as I was even chatting about how yesterday unfolded with people yesterday, because the Lutnick comments initially came out late in the day yesterday. So we weren't even a day into tariffs being implemented that he was sort of changing the tone, which prompted a lot of what is he doing responses. Now, I just want to be clear to our audience, and many of them have been tracking the markets for years. I mean, Howard Lutnick is a legend on Wall Street. This is somebody who, obviously, his firm got hit so hard on 9/11, and they built back. He understands the language of Wall Street. So on the one hand, you have to ask, is he shifting away from what he actually knows about what the markets are seeking? Or is this part of a strategy to get the market increasingly used to the tariff reality, which President Trump seems pretty excited about tariffs, generally speaking, and maybe Lutnick is trying to manage the market's response over time so we don't see a massive sell-off all at once? What do you think?
I can't disagree with that thought process. I mean, Lutnick is very aware of how to position things and how to state things, and in terms of getting what you want. And there's a saying, talking your book. And to some degree, I think that is happening coming out of Washington across the board. And I think Lutnick is doing a decent job of continuing to push the narrative of what's going on with the tariff situation. And it keeps everyone on their toes. So there's good and bad with that. It does create a lot of volatility, but at least there's news coming out. And traders and market participants really dislike the uncertainties, and more uncertainties continue to come out over time. But as we learn information and learn news and hear about changes and adaptations that may be taking place, it allows us at least to shift and position for the next leg.
All right. So this is going to be an interesting day to watch, and I will add to the conversation. I mean, obviously, we covered what in this country, and I'm sure you saw the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau with Canada's retaliatory tariffs. But even in the province of Ontario, you had the premier, newly reelected, who, says, okay, we got a 25% tax on the power going to states like New York and Minnesota. We're going to take U.S. booze off the shelves. There was a lot of reporting suggesting in his conversations with Lutnick yesterday, he said, thanks, but no thanks. We're not, changing anything right now because you've really frustrated us. Maybe that influenced Lutnick, maybe it didn't. But as an investor who's trying to make sound decisions in all this, what sometimes feels like unnecessary chaos, what do you do?
You try and go back to the middle in any way you can, whether it's portfolio positioning, whether it's trying to find a balance between what you're trying to accomplish. And there's a lot of politicking going on, taking the booze off the shelves for argument's sake. It's already in the country. There's nothing that's going to change the dynamic. It's a little bit of politicking and window dressing, so to speak. And I think that speaks to someone's base as a politician. It really doesn't change the narrative of what's going on overall. So when you try to be wary of what can you do to be more neutral in your approach to portfolios and investing, it's thoughtful to remain liquid, aware of where your positions can go right or wrong, and reposition as time goes on. I mean, we always talk about repositioning a portfolio if you have a big run up in a particular stock sector, industry, or asset class. And right now we're being thoughtful about, hey, we might have some opportunity to buy into some things that are taking a dip, and there might be some good opportunities down the road. And I think being aware of those without taking undue risk is an appropriate strategy.
Yeah, just going to squeeze, that's helpful. I'm going to squeeze one quick one in. So I was just looking at the S&P 500. It looks like it's now down, give or take, 6% from the recent peak. However, it felt like yesterday in trading, as soon as we got back to the levels we were at around election night, which had previously marked this Trump bump, all of a sudden people sort of hit the pause button. Now, 10% is an official correction. We had not seen a correction in the market during this bull market so far. Sometimes corrections actually can be healthy. So if you're going to be looking for opportunity, is it just literally in what we have seen in these damaged stocks over the last couple of weeks?
I think to some degree it is. I mean, when you're talking about the opportunity, I look at the Trump put to be around the 5,600 on the S&P. That's about a 10% correction from the highs. I think that starts to get the attention of President Trump. I think he's willing to take some noise until we see some more meaningful decline. But for the rest of us, when we're trying to invest, there's opportunity in there. So looking at things that might be taking a hit in energy, AI, I think there's opportunity in those spaces specifically because I think they will come out of the situation that we're in right now a little bit stronger, and there's some bounce to be had. So there's opportunity for sure.
Okay, Chris, appreciate the breakdown. Chris Brigati of SWBC joining us.